Black people all over the world are suffering and dying too soon from illnesses that have plagued our communities for centuries. At Indigenous Health, we are on a mission to build the most valuable and genetically diverse data bank on the planet. Although people with African ancestry make up more than 20% of the global population, our genetic data is less than 3% of the data used in drug discovery. We are frustrated by the status quo and are determined to make a difference by becoming the change we want to see. We know you have lots of questions, and we're excited to answer those questions. You will also receive a free personalized health assessment. Join our community today at biusforall.com. Hello and welcome. Welcome to our Founders Live. I'm Madia Logan, our Chief Member Officer for Indigenous Health. I'm really happy to talk to you all tonight. Take a couple minutes and talk to you all. I'm going to add our other founders and co-founders here and just jump into the conversation. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
Great.
Great. We have our CEO, Yusuf Henriquez, on, our president and founder, Michael, Dr. Brad Wilson, our chief scientific officer, and myself, Madia Logan. So I just wanted to welcome you all. Any opening comments just from the group for what's going on this week, or any welcomes you all want to do in particular?
Wanted to welcome to our live every Monday. Super excited as we move into the new year. Tremendous work's been put in here. The team has been working tirelessly to make sure that we're bringing good content, and in the next couple of days, we'll be able to highlight our up and coming personal health risk assessment that we're streamlining in our web application that will be available soon. And so, as we start to curate message and content and bringing on interesting and folks that want to engage with us, stay tuned, because we're going to probably start highlighting some of the new members that have not only signed up on the platform, but also Impact Advisory Board members that have decided to join us on this movement, because it is a movement. And so it's going to take a village. And so, looking forward to sharing some of that news with you guys in the next coming weeks as we wrap up the year of 2021 and move into 2022.
Yeah. Can you all believe the end of the year is here? It's just it just feels like it came up really fast, but with everything going on, thankful to be here to end another year, to see the end of this year and hopefully the start of next year. Hey, Michael, I want to turn to you for just some company updates. Is there anything you'd like to share from the Indigenous Health from a company perspective, just in terms of updates and
Sure.
Good news? Traction?
No. Lots of updates. Don't want to give away too much. We have press releases for that, and so those are being drafted. But to echo what Yusuf said, very excited about how far we've come. Very excited about some of the news we have coming up to share. We've definitely seen a lot of support across the world, actually. So excited to share more of that as soon as we're ready to come out with that information. So the update is, people should stay tuned. If they haven't already, they should sign up at biusforall.com. And
Yes.
We look forward to being able to provide all the folks who signed up with early information and early access. So that's the promise.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Michael. Now, I want to make sure we jump right into the topic, because last week, Dr. Wilson is not a very he's not a very talkative person in my experience, but he was really excited about the topic. We were talking about maternal mortality, and this week we're going to transition into talking about infant mortality, and Dr. Wilson is going to lead that conversation. I just want to make sure we have enough time for the meat of the conversation. But very quickly, I wanted to get you all's thoughts on the news that came out last week from the White House on Vice President Kamala Harris announced a call to action to reduce maternal mortality and morbidity. So just seeing that come in the same week as we were talking about it seemed really significant for me. Dr. Wilson, do you have any thoughts just on that announcement and initiative, or any one of you? Do you all have any thoughts or to share on that initiative or the announcement about it?
Yeah, I think it speaks to the relevance of the topic in terms of us addressing it at this time. Following a Family Health History Month, and the fact that Vice President Harris, had the event announcing the initiative from the White House, from the federal government, is good news, right?
Agreed.
It's getting more attention being brought to the topic and to the issue. And to this particular health disparity, which is again, one that doesn't get talked about as much.
Yeah.
So, the fact that that our fellow alum, Vice President Harris, is bringing attention to this is great and is positive, and it just shows that we're on point in terms of the things that we're talking about and addressing, and in terms of the issues that are facing our community.
Yeah, agreed.
One thing I will add is, because I spent some time in the federal government, and so announcements are good, but outcomes matter more. And so it's good to see the announcement. It's good that they had the event, but it's really going to come down to impact, right? So it's, what are the actionable steps that they're proposing? What are some of the investments they're going to make? Like, if it's a big new thing, are there dollars associated with it, or is it just something that the president signed? And if there are dollars, where are those dollars going? Because everything kind of comes down to resource allocation. And if we're going to solve this problem, resources need to be allocated to solutions to the problem of maternal mortality disparities, infant mortality disparities, because these things have been existent for decades. And I haven't tracked it, but I assume there might have been press releases from the White House in the past about this. But the numbers are where they are. So the hope is that something meaningful comes out of it.
Well, what did want to point out that in terms of advocacy, generally, the first step is, acknowledgement. So, I mean, even if it has been acknowledged before, there's something different about the times now, right? Having the technology, the essentially, we've done away with the traditional news cycle, and there is no news cycle. News is instantaneous, and the fact that this attention is being brought to this now, at this point in time, I think is again understanding that ultimately, like you said, the impact that this program will have, this initiative will have, will ultimately, the only time will tell, and the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, right? But the first step, with including some of the other advocacy organizations that I've worked with, the first step is getting acknowledgement at that federal level, and once you get that in terms of some type of acknowledgement, then that leads to the next step, which is appropriation, right? And then that's the funding, right? And then it's all about those
money.
Then putting those dollars to work, right? So yeah, but that's a really important first step, and the fact that it's happening now, and then the fact that she's behind it, I think is significant also.
No, I would agree. I definitely have more hope about this time around, and we'll do our part to apply pressure. We'll shout from the mountaintops if we have to. No, seriously, it's just, at the end of the day, you can play nice and no one's going to pay attention. Problems don't get solved. Or we can, try and hold people accountable. And the Black moms are still dying, right? That's just, that's kind of it.
The reality.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah. I think, like I said, to echo, both of you guys' point, I think where I'm at is, these, like you said, all these press release. Let's go ahead and put somebody accountable for this. So, I'm glad that is, our fellow alum. And so, but either way, like Michael, you just said, Black moms are still dying. And so, we're gonna hold her to a higher level of standard, given the fact that she's also an African American woman as well and a mom. So, what we want to do is to definitely ensure that funding is put towards this, policies that engage our communities needs to be, put together, because what I don't want to see anymore is that, these press releases go out and then things go unheard of, and then we're 4 years later down the road still putting out press release. And then the second thing is funding. We can't move anything without funding. So while the press release is great, we need to see some dollars go behind there, and actually go to the community-based organizations that will carry out these particular things. Because again, I'm a little today. I'm really on another level of where I'm starting to see this health disparity shift to where dollars is being put to it, but it's going to predominantly white institutions.
I was going to say, speak freely. Speak freely.
Preach.
Held yourself.
Predominantly white institution and predominantly white research investigators and white clinicians. And so that's not what I'm signing up for on this press release. So if those are some of the areas that we're going to see a change, that's going to be my metric, to kind of see how we move the needle. But I'll put my gun back in my holster.
Oh my goodness.
No, seriously, this is a very important point, and we kind of talk about it behind the scenes, but Brad says it all the time. When the clinician, when the care team is a person of color, the disparities go away.
Yeah.
And so the evidence is there. But because things are so systemically set up a certain way, the funding lines just seem to kind of lead to the same destinations. And if we really want to solve this, then we actually have to look at how the resources are allocated. That's just like follow the money, as they say.
Follow the money. I'm like Jerry Maguire. Show me the money.
Right.
Period.
Well, it's a really interesting. The White House has a fact sheet on it, and I was just skimming through it as you all were talking, and they have outlined money. They've outlined some partnerships, and I am glad, like you all said. Now, as the media person on the line, I feel like press releases play their part, right? It is an important piece to announce what you're doing and your intention, but it is also very important to walk the talk, and I think that's what you all are saying, and it looks like it's off to a start, and we will see. But I'm happy and excited that they are, as Dr. Wilson said, and as you all echoed, that there is a focus on this. Vice President Harris's quote was about, she was saying, women, hey, we see you, we understand what you're going through, and that's important. So we'll see how it moves through. But let's transition now to going into infant mortality rates. So it was just even doing the research and looking at all the research and what we know about infant mortality and Black babies dying at higher rates than their counterparts. So I'm just going to jump into it. Dr. Wilson, will you frame up the conversation for us around infant mortality?
Sure. Just generally based on my knowledge, I mean, when we talk about these problems, it's not generally, just one issue. It's issues at multiple levels. And, similarly to a lot of the other health disparities that are out there, there's the initial, discussion about access to healthcare. That always, that you cannot, have this discussion without speaking about. So, you talk about, the insurance status of Black and brown and indigenous moms, whether they be, if they have insurance at all, or if they're, what their insurance coverage is like. And then that kind of like lends into the discussion about prenatal care, right? So during the pregnancy, what type of care mom is receiving? She's getting the standard testing. Is she on the, recommended, uh, uh, prenatal vitamin regimens and taking the things that are recommended during the pregnancy to promote, healthy pregnancies and to reduce the chances of some of the complications that can arise during pregnancies, like neural tube defects and things of that nature that are very closely associated with specific and during pregnancy. So things, and then checks during the pregnancy.
Hey, Brad, you're cutting out a little bit.
There's standard testing that's, and then also there some testing that happens, monitoring that happens during the pregnancy for things like preeclampsia and gestational diabetes and things like that. So access to healthcare kind of has an impact on all these things, and then of course other things like diet, nutrition, and diet and lifestyle and things of that nature. But then when you get down to it in terms of, the actual care from the clinicians is where we see again the point that Michael raised in terms of some of these disparities that we see, and the fact that they go away when the clinicians look like the patients, and the clinicians are Black and brown clinicians, and
right,
they have we would assume that the rapport and the communication is a little different, and it's more effective potentially, and as a result of the care received by these clinicians, so like you say, these disparities that we see in a lot of cases go away.
Right. Now, what is if you're looking at this from a I have the experience of being a mom and of losing a pregnancy, so the experience can be very is very personal, is very deep and kind of tragic. It makes me wonder what and I think I understand it, but from you all's perspective as the leaders of this company as well, what is Indigenous going to do, or what is Indigenous working to do to combat this health disparity along with the others? But is there anything specific about what we're doing in our approach to combat infant mortality?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that first if you'd like. So essentially, a lot of what we're doing is not only building out our technology platform in a culturally sensitive way, but to Brad's point, we're building a community of providers, of a community of support, of folks that look like them, to ultimately engage them on this platform. Because a lot of this it starts with knowledge and lack thereof, right? So if folks are getting educated, folks have a better understanding of what they need to do to get better outcomes with their pregnancy, better outcomes for their newborns, and they're actually being connected to people who are empathetic, people who are culturally engaging and culturally sensitive, and all of the resources are available at their fingertips. I think that's going to go a long way to help. So that's one thing we're doing. The other thing we're doing, which everyone is aware of, is maternal mortality. Infant mortality is a high priority for us, and we're prioritizing it because we're prioritizing things where there is a significant health disparity. And so for us, that's how we're going to be different. You know this. I know you asked so we could tell the people, but
I did. It's good.
Yeah, I think all points. I think another thing that I'm making sure that we highlight here is we gotta be intentional.
Yes.
There's no more time for concepts and theories. We know where the data is. We know where the bodies are buried. Funding is one, but again, I think in my time and life span of being in healthcare, it just seems to be a less level of importance when it comes to Black and brown indigenous babies. And so I think what was powerful for me, I know if Madia, you're the one that posted that, but even that shot of that baby and fetus in the mother's womb that was burning,
Yes.
I don't think I ever saw a brown baby in the womb before ever
Right.
on any graphics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean by being intentional. There's no
Yeah.
longer, I'm not dancing around the subject anymore. And so just seeing that gave me, another, even though I'm tired, gave me the reason why indigenous is moving the way it's moving, because that's the type of intentional things that we're going to need to do in order to change that narrative, because it needs to be visual as well. And I think that was probably the most compelling picture that I've seen ever, because I can't remember where I've seen a brown baby and fetus ever.
I don't think it existed, which is why the picture went viral. So it was a medical student born in Nigeria, studying somewhere in Europe, I think. So he drew it and put it on the internet, and it went viral. He was covered by CNN, CBS, and that I think, in a sense, it's encouraging that if we can actually, if things can be created that grab attention, that it seems like there are enough people in the world that actually care about some of these things,
Right.
and a way to be that agent of change is to create some of these things that will sort of inspire people, will drive certain conversations, but then we always have to connect these moments with meaningful action, particularly around funding and policy. So I think the narrative was, this was like the first time this is out there, which is why it was so shocking. It's like, really, 2021, first time this was created. But that kind of goes to show you
Right.
how conditioned we are
Mm-hmm.
to just accept whatever the template is.
Right.
And
Right.
it's, there are over 1 billion people who have this skin color. I
Right.
mean,
Never. I mean, again, 25 years in healthcare, I've never seen it.
Yeah, it really did go viral. And we not just posted the image, we also posted his GoFundMe, because, he's trying to build out those medical illustrations and make them available. So, yeah, that was a good, great call out. Dr. Wilson, we're asking folks to sign up. We're always telling folks to sign up and asking folks to sign up for buyusforall.com. And as people are passionate about this topic and some other health topics, as people sign up, what happens then, and how does that help them fight for health equity?
Sure, and this is a perfect segue into from the previous question in terms of what Indigenous is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So part of what needs to be done is, as Michael mentioned, is the education piece in terms of increasing health literacy about the disparities that our populations face, Black,
Mm-hmm.
brown, and indigenous populations face, about the things that we need to be aware of, during mothers need to be aware of during pregnancy, and things like that. And then also it's about understanding what the drivers of disease are in our communities, in our populations. And for that, what we need to do is participate in research. And we understand that there is a lack of trust in our communities about participating in research. That's
Yes.
why we, as members of that community during the research, are reaching out to our community and saying, come and participate in research that we are presenting and bringing you information about, that's being done by researchers that look like you,
Yeah.
and that are involving clinicians and doctors and dentists and nurses and physical therapists that look like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And clinical trials being conducted by researchers and clinicians that look like you, right? For on things that impact you and members of your family, right? So that's the next step in the process, in terms of, after we educate our folks about about these things and that are impacting our community. The next is to get involved in the research on those conditions and diseases so we can identify what's driving those things genetically. And then we can figure out, once we identify what the roots of the causes are, then we can figure out ways to test to identify those things and what we call and identify what are called biomarkers for those types of things, so we can improve how those things are diagnosed, and then we can move on to improving and developing treatments for those things that specifically are going to impact and benefit folks from Black and Brown and Indigenous communities. So those are the next two phases in terms of the process of how we really impact change and how we really drive health equity by reducing and eliminating these health disparities.
And Brad, could you also talk about the benefit they would get, at least from a perspective of nutrigenomics and pharmacogenomics, right? Just because, yes, there's research and new stuff, but there's like things they would benefit from today, basically, as well.
Sure. Not only does, participating in the research, but, indigenous, the indigenous family of companies offers whole genome sequencing services available to consumers. Right now, you can pre-order your whole genome sequencing kit, and then what information you can get from that is you can get information on how you metabolize nutrients that you take in and through your diet. You can get information on how you metabolize and respond to drugs that you may take for various conditions. And this information is potentially useful for you in making small adjustments that can have huge impacts on your daily quality of life. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about impacting the quality of life of Black and Brown and Indigenous people for the better, so that, the lives that we live are more fulfilling, because we're dealing with less health issues that are making that, that are, adding to the level of challenges that we face out here in this already challenging world, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well said. Well, we have just a couple minutes left. And with those couple minutes, I'll do a quick speed round closing. But first, I want to encourage you to sign up at buyusforall.com. You can sign up to be a part of our community. Even if you're not sure if you want to do whole genome sequencing yet, or share your data, or to what extent you're comfortable sharing your data, you can sign up and be a part of our community. That means you'll get the news when the app is out, and we'll continue to communicate with you as we build out advocacy communities and work with advocacy communities for different illnesses. But please sign up at buyusforall.com. It just takes about 2 minutes. And then we will be in communication with you about what can happen next. And of course, we do have a free personalized health assessment report that you receive as a result of signing up for buyusforall.com. It's an initial study that you can participate in, and then share that information with your healthcare provider to start talking about what you may need to plan for a long and healthy life. So thank you all for joining us. Who wants to close us out?
The boss man.
Yusuf.
Yeah, no problem. I'm a good closer. I think I'll take this minute just to echo what everybody else said here. To the mothers of Black and Indigenous and Brown, we want you to know that Indigenous is taking this as critical as any other disease areas. This is the future of our kids and kids, and so we appreciate the fact that the White House has identified it, but we're no longer going to wait for policy to be driven at that federal level. Indigenous will be that individual community-based organization that's going to get into these neighborhoods and look at some of the health disparities, including maternal and infant mortality rates, and figure out ways how to reduce those things through our platform. Sign up, if you just want to get information newsletter wise to build awareness around what we're doing. At least take that first step with signing up and being engaged, because that's what it's going to take. You got to be engaged, and you got to get in the game. And so the time is now, as I've told the team, and every day matters and every day counts. And so, join us on this movement as we build an organization that we think will change the lives, as we said, and build a better return on investment on your health and better communities for our kids and grandkids to live in.
All right.
Well said.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all next week on Monday. All right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.